This is okra, an okra plant, direct seeded in February, next to my collard green plants. Collard green plants, direct seeded in February, are normal. Okra plants in February are not normal. Hello and welcome back to the Primitive Organic Garden channel. It's no longer the Pacific Northwest Primitive Organic Garden channel, it's just the Primitive Organic Garden channel now. I am no longer in the Pacific Northwest, and I apologize for not having made a video update in probably a year or more. I moved to the Mojave Desert for a few months and was trying to farm there, but the drought was really severe and got chased out by the Blue Cup wildfire. So now I am back in the swamp in South Carolina. There's some oregano growing out from under the house here, which is kind of funny. So I used to have a garden here before I went to the Pacific Northwest, and I did some permaculture stuff, and it was interesting to come back after over a year and a half and see what was still there. This used to be a strawberry bed. There's a handful of strawberries still in here, but it looks like my 3 different varieties of mint kind of overtook most of the bed. The oregano, also very interesting. There's much more oregano here now than I left. The oregano has even expanded out in places and is trying to compete with the grass. Grapefruit mint is really producing largest leaves, but I noticed that the apple mint has really started venturing out into the grass. I can see apple mint way out here, almost in the middle of the yard at this point, and then I saw another one way out here. That's just incredible, because this is 6 feet from where the plant originates, and it's competing with the grass. Plants do a lot of really cool things. I was really excited to start a video update and brag about the fact that I have tangerine trees outside in February, and I was also going to brag about the fact that I saw multiple tomato plants volunteered. It was February, and I'm out here looking at my lettuce, and it's 80-something degrees, and my lettuce is all wilting, and I see a tomato plant underneath some of the lettuce, which I thought was really funny. Here's a tomato plant right here that's volunteered. It's underneath some spinach. I was really excited to brag about that. And then a day later, I was looking in my raised bed here, and I noticed that I had tomatillo plants that had germinated. Ones that I had seeded just kind of as a joke. Did, but I didn't get to film the video in time because I got busy, and today is March 1st, but still, it's March 1st and I have tomatillo plants outside. That's a little bit scary. There's been more and more signs in my garden of a rapidly changing climate, and that's very concerning for a lot of farmers and gardeners, because when climate changes rapidly, it's much more difficult to adapt. And moreover, a lot of the effects of climate change we're seeing are not just a gradual, not a gradual, steady increase in just temperature, but we're also seeing wild fluctuations in things like precipitation levels and storms and things like that. Over here I have some peas that are coming up, and this was a bed that was mainly planted with various lettuces. Lettuces didn't do too well because the weather got really warm. We've had, I don't know, 10 or 12 days already this year that have been at 80 or more. And I'm excited to harvest some strawberries from here in a few weeks. The strawberries are already flowering in February. Some hazel plants outside here. I have this in-ground plot here that wasn't really amended with anything. All I did was remove the grass and go. It's probably not going to be very productive, but there's some radishes coming up. I have one single row of triticale. I have quite a few more radishes in there. I planted a couple of fava beans, but it doesn't look like very many of the fava beans came up. There's one lonely row of Swiss chard, some more radishes, 2 rows of corn, but over here is the bed where I have some corn as well as quite a bit of arugula. I have tuna, a couple rows of radishes. All this is stuff that I started planting in January and February. I've only been back at this location here in the swamp for 60 days now, so a lot of this stuff is new stuff that I planted. But it was interesting to see the things that were already here. There was a lot of, I saw some volunteer cilantro, the blueberry bushes were still here, there was plenty of asparagus still. This was a garden that I had left here, but it was fallow until I got back, and then I sowed it with peas, and that seemed to be one of the few things that wanted to come up in there. The soil is probably pretty poor quality. I saw a lot of peas and some cilantro germinate there. This is a in-ground plot where I have some squash around the edge and then 4 or 5 rows of radishes. This was my compost pile years ago, and back at the end of December when I visited for Christmas, I sowed 3 rows of mixed greens. I sowed spinach out here, but that didn't come up because it was too warm. There's only a few spinach plants in here. But this is mostly just kale, and there's some red lettuce in here. But I saw 3 volunteer tomato plants back here. There's also some volunteer cilantro. The volunteer cilantro is not at all unusual in February, but volunteer tomatoes in February is quite unusual, and the volunteer tomatoes, not volunteer, but the tomatillos that I seeded in the bed, those coming up, even being in a raised bed like that that gets slightly warmer, it's still pretty worrisome to see tomatillos germinating outside in February, because honestly tomatoes shouldn't be germinating outside in February, much less tomatillos, which usually require much warmer soil temperatures. If I see peppers start coming up out here now, I'm going to be horrified. This is a new fuel culture bed that I built. There's some radishes coming up here. There's 1 row of okra, but this is mainly sown with Swiss chard. I planted 4 or 5 different varieties of Swiss chard in there, all different colors, so that should be fun. I guess that about does it for this garden update. I wanted to keep this fairly short because I don't have a whole lot to talk about. Like I said, I've only been at this location again for 60 days, and a lot of things, like we talked about the loquat tree, the strawberries, the oregano and mint patches, those were here because I had left them here from years ago, and some of that lasted. But this plot here, the raised bed here, the hugelkultur bed, and converting the compost pile to a garden, that's all stuff I've done in the last 60 days. I got tomatoes and zucchini and stuff coming up in these trays here. It's way too late to have planted potatoes, but I decided to plant a potato or 2 in each one of these buckets with some compost. They're purple potatoes. They're probably not going to do well because it's already too warm, but this strawberry's got a lot of flowers on it. I got some radishes coming up in this bucket, just some perennial wildflowers here. I always try to plant something for the bees. And here's my tangerine trees that I started with. I got some coming up here, a bucket of garlic. I plant garlic everywhere, but I wanted a bucket close to the house for easy picking around dinner time. Got some more tomatoes coming up. I just use paper rolls and paper towel rolls to make seed planters there, because I don't want to keep using all those petroleum trays, plastic ones, and it's just a waste of money and a waste of plastic. But everything looks like it's doing okay for March 1st. I got another little tray of tomatoes coming up here. A volunteer tomato here. I planted this, potted up this mint because this mint was somewhere where I didn't want it. I put it in the pot here. And a bunch of tomato compost I threw in there, seed, because there's a volunteer tomato. This is a cool Adirondack chair I built the other day out of the same pine wood here that I used for the raised bed. Should be an interesting March. I'm hoping to be harvesting peas by next week, strawberries in 2 weeks. I'm already harvesting a lot of lettuce and kale and stuff from like that back there. I'll be harvesting radishes by next week. There's more Mizuna than I probably care for at this point. Already been harvesting a little bit of asparagus, but again, it's been kind of warm for that, so I don't have as much asparagus as I anticipated. But I'll probably try to give you guys another update, I suppose, in a few weeks. I'm hoping to get some rain this week or next week, and things will pick up the pace in terms of growth. Well, happy gardening.